My sister gave birth to me, and the family forced her to pretend she didn't taint. Everyone thought my family was perfect. Holiday photos, loud laughter, inside jokes we never explained. What people didn't notice was how quiet the house became when certain questions came up. Where we were born, why dates never lined up, why my sister never talked about her childhood. I noticed the cracks early. My mom never let anyone tell stories about the past. She'd interrupt, laugh too loudly, change the subject. My sister watched everything instead of participating, like she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. I told myself it was normal. Families are weird. That's what people say when something feels off, but they don't want to dig. The first real warning came when I needed documents for school. I went into the locked cabinet everyone was told not to touch. Inside were folders labeled neatly, like someone had rehearsed this lie for years. One folder had my name, another had my sister's name. But the dates didn't make sense. The age gap was wrong. Too small, almost impossible. That's when I realized something worse than secrets was happening. This wasn't forgetting. This was planning. I watched my sister differently after that. The way she corrected my posture. The way she flinched when I called her by her name. The way my mom looked at her with resentment instead of affection. Like someone who lost control of a story they created. I finally asked the question no one was supposed to ask. The room went silent. My mom didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just sat down like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. She admitted the truth calmly, like it was a weather report. My sister wasn't my sister. She was my mother. I wasn't raised by my parent. I was raised by someone covering up a scandal so deep it erased an entire generation. Then my mom said something that made my stomach drop. She said the lie wasn't just to protect me. It was to protect them. And that's when I realized I still didn't know who my real family actually was. After the truth came out, nobody screamed. That was the scariest part. No dramatic breakdowns, no begging, no denial, just silence. The kind that confirms you've stepped into something that's been buried so long, everyone already rehearsed what to say if it ever surfaced. My grandmother was the first to speak. She explained it like logistics. My sister got pregnant at 15. The father was older, not old enough to be illegal, but old enough that it would have destroyed the family's reputation in our town. Church leaders, PTA boards, appearances mattered more than damage. So they made a decision. One meeting, no debate. The baby would be raised as my grandmother's child. My real mother would become my sister. Everyone would lie forever. Not because it was right, but because it was easier. They framed it as sacrifice. They said she agreed. But when I looked at her, I saw the truth. Agreement isn't agreement when there's no alternative. Growing up, she wasn't allowed to discipline me. She wasn't allowed to show too much affection. She wasn't allowed to tell people why she never dated, why she lived at home, why she hovered just outside every important moment of my life. Every boundary was designed to keep her invisible. I asked where my father was. That's when the tone shifted. They said his family didn't want involvement. They said it was mutual. But then my grandmother slipped and said he didn't deserve to ruin his future too. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't about protecting a child. It was about protecting men. The fallout didn't come immediately. It crept in slowly. I started remembering things differently. Moments that never made sense suddenly clicked. Why my mom never looked at me when I cried. Why my sister always did. Why my grandmother controlled everything. Who we spoke to, what stories were told, what photos stayed framed. My real mother tried to explain herself one night. She said she loved me more than anything. That giving me up was the hardest thing she ever did. But when I asked why she never fought back, she went quiet. She said she tried once. She said when I was a baby, she held me and told them she couldn't do it anymore. That she wanted to be my mother openly. My grandmother told her if she ruined the lie, she'd be kicked out. No money, no support, no access to me. She'd lose me completely. So she stayed, and she obeyed. That's when the anger hit me. Not at her, but at the people who called themselves my family. I stopped calling my grandmother Mom. I stopped pretending that the dynamic was normal. And when extended relatives asked questions, I told the truth. Not dramatically, just plainly. Watching their faces change was the most validating thing I'd ever experienced. The family tried to shut it down fast. They said I was exaggerating, that I misunderstood, that I was hurting people by talking. that it was selfish. But something interesting happens when a secret is exposed. It starts rotting everything else. Old stories didn't line up anymore. Other family decisions suddenly felt suspicious. Other girls who disappeared for months. Other things we were told not to talk about. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a system. Eventually, my real mother moved out. Not because she wanted distance from me, but because staying meant continuing the lie. We rebuilt our relationship slowly, awkwardly, painfully. We didn't try to force labels. We let the truth exist without decoration. As for my grandmother, she never apologized. She said she did what was necessary, that I should be grateful that families survive because of secrets. But here's the thing, families don't survive secrets, they survive accountability. I cut contact with her a year later, not out of revenge, out of self respect. Today, I tell people exactly who raised me and who gave birth to me. I don't soften it. I don't make it comfortable because the discomfort belongs to the people who made the choice, not the child who lived with it. And the most controversial part? If it happened again tomorrow, in a different house, a different town, a different family, they'd probably make the same decision. Because protecting an image is still more important than protecting girls.